Hi guys. Okay, this video is a time lapse of us pouring a Nudura insulated concrete form house. This is got a 6-inch core, and we're doing the main floor and garage of this house. So the garage walls are about 14 feet tall from the initial Nudura footing pour. And the house walls are 10 feet from the subfloor there to the tops of the walls above the basement pour. So it's about 41 cubic meters of concrete. I think it was 5 cement trucks. And as you can see, we're just starting here, going around. I think in the house we put about 5 feet of concrete on the initial pass. And we're getting all the windows filled in. So it's kind of hard to see, but the windows have 2x4s on the bottoms of the bucks, and that allows the concrete to come up through the middles of them as we vibrate. So I'm at the top there pumping the concrete in, and then there's another guy near the windows with the vibrator, and he's sort of making the concrete come down the wall and bubble as close as he can into the middle of those window bucks, and then we strike it off and flatten it out on this first pass. Okay, I'm just going to talk about that T-wall brace we're coming to right now, because that's sort of a critical area. So the way I made that particular T-wall where I am right now is I just cut the one side out of each 90 as I went up the wall of the main house, which allowed the concrete to flow into the garage wall side. They make T's, but most people don't use them because they're difficult to, well, not difficult to work with, but you could just make them a lot easier and make them fit your application a lot easier. So that's what we did. So cut the one side out, and then I braced all the way up with horizontals, and then 2 double vertical 2x4s, as you can see there. And the vertical 2x4s are lag bolted to the 2x6s. And then to hold everything from, if you can imagine, peeling off the interior wall there, I passed all around, or pipe strapping, metal pipe strapping with all the holes in it, through the wall at each block joint. So they go through the wall, and they're screwed to that vertical double 2x4 with roofing screws, same screws we use on the braces. And then they go through the wall, and then they're screwed to an interior horizontal 2x4 all the way up the wall that's screwed to the webs on the inside. And that horizontal 2x4 on the inside, it's screwed to about 5 or 6 webs at least on that flanking wall. And I pre-tensioned the strap, the metal strap, with a little ratchet strap before I screwed it down. So that wall was tight, and everything was pulled together before the concrete started going in. And that worked really well. On that interior T-wall, I wasn't as concerned because it has a normal plumb wall brace up against it, and then we additionally put a kicker, or like a 2x6 at the bottom, to keep the bottom from pushing out in towards the house. And then obviously you can see I have all the normal 90-degree braces there on the corners going up. So that worked out really well. And then here we're just, the pump guy is giving us a minute just to start screeding off the top of the wall and flattening it out. The second pass around is where you really got to be paying attention, and it really helps to have really good guys behind you, which we do here. The guy directly behind me is vibrating as I'm going, and he's helping that concrete fall down the wall as we put it in. Because if he wasn't there, I'd be going along and I would think the wall is full, and I might put a little extra, mount it up, but then as soon as he goes by, it starts dropping down significantly, and you would have to do another pass again, and you would only be putting a little bit in, and that is where you'd start to get the spillover and the mess and everything. So having that vibrating guy right behind you, knocking that down, gives you a good visual on how much exactly you need to place in that wall. Then of course there's always going to be a little bit more, a little bit less, but that's what we're doing here. We're just sort of putting into buckets, or moving it as necessary, or filling in small voids, or throwing it off the side of the wall, whatever is easier in that particular case. So again, he gives us a pause here, the pump guy, to sort of catch up and flatten it out, which is nice. Because it's a lot to go and do this completely afterwards, and once the pump's gone, you're not getting concrete up there again, well, easily anyway. And here we go, this is the final pass over the garage, again vibrating like crazy as we go, because above the openings there's significant amounts of rebar. So you have hooks and you have horizontals and you have verticals on both sides, and in some places like that garage wall there's a ton of rebar vertical between the two garage door openings, so you really want to vibrate that, get that consolidated around all of that so you can get your maximum strength. And a flat shovel, a little short flat shovel there, is really helpful when you're flattening the top of the wall. And a bucket and a wheelbarrow inside the house helped a lot, just to sort of move little amounts of concrete here and there that you could use for voids, or if you had to move it and get rid of it and dump it over the wall. And then we're doing the final pass here, and you can see the guy vibrating, consolidating. And then the pump truck there right at that end, he's able to sort of open up his, like on the hose there's a thing that clinches down on the hose that stops the flow of concrete, and what he can do is if you need just a little spray extra, he can open up that for a second and it drops maybe a bucket, like a 5-gallon pail worth of concrete out, and you could fill in any little voids you might have missed, and it helps to have a very good pump truck driver, which this guy is. He's very thoughtful of the whole process because he knows how it works, so he knows when to move it faster, almost in anticipation of when you're going to need it. So like over openings, or as he knows the wall's filling up faster, or if you give him small hand signals, it really helps to have a good pump truck driver. So you can see here we're doing the wall straightening. So we have a string lines set up all around the outside and some places on the inside of the building. If one man was doing the straightening, it's nicer to have the string line on the inside because you can straighten and measure at the same time, but then the string line gets in the way of when you're pouring. So we decided to put them on the outside, and then we just go along with a measuring tape or a block of wood, and we are moving that wall in and out. But generally we're pushing it out because we started with the wall tipped in about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch all the way around, because with ICF braces it is much easier to push than to pull back the wall. So all I'm doing here is we're measuring, and then we've got a impact drill, and we're screwing the nut on the plumb wall in and out to move that wall. And one thing about straightening the walls that we have found is if you're straightening more than about 1/4 of an inch out of plumb on a wall, you need to do it in a couple of passes. So you can't just go and straighten the wall to your string line if you moved it 1/4 3/8 of an inch and then think you're all good, because what happens is you'll straighten one of them and then you'll move to the next one and straighten, and it'll actually pull on the one you just did, just because you're moving such a massive concrete. If you're moving just like 1/8, 1/4 of an inch, that's fine, but when you start moving over 1/4, you have to go back and do it all again, and then it'll stay where you put it. So you always just check one more time. Actually, that's my dad there. He is looking at the wall one last time after we've straightened, because even with the measuring tape going brace to brace, you can't be just looking down a wall by eye and making sure that it's straight. And here we're just laying out the anchor bolts. We happen to be using 5/8 galvanized 8-inch anchor bolts, 6 feet on center. I think they're overkill in this situation, but I had them. I think what it calls for is 1/2 inch non-galvanized bolts. We're just hooking those into the concrete and then leaving them stick out the thickness of our top plate, our wood top plate that we're going to use. And here I'm just going around just doing some cleaning, because it's a lot easier to clean now any little tiny spills over tops the sides of the wall than doing it even a day later when it's had a chance to harden. So it just saves you time and effort in the future just by doing this small cleaning right now. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Please ask any questions in the comments.